And we really are believing, as Karla said, that the next couple of decades of our life can actually be the most impactful. When we were in our 30s, we talked about retirement all the time. What are we going to do when we retire? You're in that age with kids where it's physically exhausting. And the interesting thing is where we find ourselves now is more praying and saying, hey, God, will you redeem the years where we were not passionate, where we were not partnering with you, when we were not on mission? God, would you redeem those years and help us make the most of the last couple of decades or 3 decades of our lives? So now, we're not even thinking about retirement. We're filled with passion and vigor and zeal for the Lord, and just eager to partner with Him and just make a difference in this world.
Welcome to the Age of Lions podcast, a platform and community dedicated to bringing purpose, strategy, and calling to kingdom-minded people who are 50 plus and excited about their next chapter. Here's your host, Mark Clement.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Age of Lions podcast. It is episode 15, and our guests today are Chris and Karla Hines, the founders of Marriage in Focus. As you heard from that opening clip, we're in for a treat today. These guys have a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom around marriage. Can't wait for you to learn from them. Hey, before we get started, make sure on whatever platform you're enjoying this, to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to join the conversation. We are all on this journey together, and we want to know what you think. I really want you to lean in today. Chris and Karla have over 30 years of ministry, and especially focused on marriage. They have incredible things to say about common challenges they're seeing in long-term marriages, people who are 50 plus, and how the solution is simply to see the more that God has for every couple. They believe that the secret sauce is in the oneness that God has called us to together. So I want you to get ready to learn, to grow in your marriage, and let's dive in. Hey, Chris and Karla, how are you guys today?
Hey, Mark. Doing great. Thank you so much for having us on the podcast. Really an honor to be with you.
That's awesome. So I'm honored to have you guys. You've been on my list from the very beginning. I was just waiting for the right time. And so excited that you guys are here. I was telling the audience a little bit about you and how we know each other before we got on, but I'd love for you guys to talk a little bit about your ministry and just tell everybody what you do and how you do it.
Yeah. Wow. How much time do you have today, Mark? We could
talk for days.
Yeah. How about we give you the 30,000 foot view? And Marriage in Focus really is it's a God vision. It's not something that we were thinking about, that we were strategically planning, that we had this long range plan to implement, or we saw a big gap in the marriage ministry world that needed filling. It really was a vision that just came from God. And out of that birthed this ministry. Marriage in Focus is a nonprofit Christian marriage ministry, and we exist to glorify God by impacting marriages. And the cool thing is we all exist to glorify God in our lives, but we have a very specific way we want to do that, is by impacting marriages. And we're not quite 3 years old as a ministry, as an organization. And it's just amazing to see all that God has done in just this short period of time, and just feel very blessed and honored to be able to do this.
So, Karla, tell me, what does it actually look like? I think when we hear marriage ministry, everybody's got a version of that in their head. Sometimes it's counseling, sometimes it's retreats or conferences or speaking at places. Or what do you guys do exactly? What's specific about your ministry or unique about it?
That is so great. We actually have 4 lanes of ministry, and the first one are retreats. They are designed for smaller groups of individuals who want and know that God has more for their marriage. The second lane of ministry is premarital, and we love setting young people or even older people up to do life and have marriage done God's way. So we love doing premarital. The third is marriage maintenance mentorship, which in a nutshell is keeping all of us on the right track. so that we're not finding ourselves in a bad way.
We say that marriage maintenance mentorship is analogous to a quarterly oil change for your car. Just like our automobiles need routine maintenance in order to operate at their peak capacity, and according to the manufacturer's design, our marriages do as well. And so, too many people wait until their transmission is blown out to look for help. So yeah, it's just a quarterly oil change for your marriage.
And the fourth lane of ministry is marriages in crisis, which is much more of a one-on-one basis as needed. We have been so blessed to be able to partner with God in this new endeavor.
Yeah, it's been really amazing to watch. Chris and I had the privilege of working together on two sides of the Highlands ministry, and got to partner together a lot in what you guys were doing at the Auburn campus. And I got to know you a little bit, Karla, as we went. But when Chris told me about this vision and started sharing about it, I was so excited for you guys, because I always thought of y'all as sort of a kind of a power couple, both super talented, both really great leaders, great speakers, great teachers. You had a lot of talent, a lot of personality. And I knew immediately, like, this is going to work. Like, you guys have the skill set, and you have the faith, and you have the walk with Christ, and the people who support you. I knew you wouldn't have any trouble raising money and figuring out how to get it going. And so it's been really fun to watch from the sidelines and just see what's happened in 3 years is so fast. Like, it's a lot, but it's also super fast, and God has done so much. So it's really cool to hear and see, how great it's going. I know you guys follow what we're doing here, and we love to ask everybody when we start out the interview, just at what stage of life, what's a story when you kind of had that aha moment of, I'm getting a little older, I'm starting to feel it. Maybe it's the eyesight, maybe it's something that happened in your family or something with your kids or just whatever. But for you guys, what was kind of that moment of, we're kind of on that second half. What was your aha moment?
Mark, that's a great question. One of the things it's funny is Karla and I reflected on that, prior to joining you on the show. One of the blessings that we've been doing marriage ministry for a couple of decades now, and over those 20 or so years, we have consistently found ourselves hanging around really young couples because we've done a lot of premarital coaching and equipping. And I think we had fooled ourselves into thinking that we were basically their same age.
That's right, 30-year-olds.
And all of us, all of our very best friends were 2 decades younger than us. We led for years and years young married small groups. We led young married freedom groups.
That's right, premarital a couple of times.
Yeah, I thought we were we're your guys' age. And all of a sudden you realize, hey, they're staying in this consistent age range, and we are continuing to advance in age. And so just kind of that revelation of, their hair is not gray, but mine is gray. I am now wearing progressive lenses, even though I'm not on this show, and they're all great. But just a funny story for me, I really have genuinely just felt young and not my age for the longest time. And just within the last month or so, I shared this with our community group. I was out in the yard doing some work, not particularly difficult work or hard, laborious work, but it whipped me. And I had this revelation out there. I am not as young as I used to be. And what a decade ago or even 5 years ago barely took any toll on me, all of a sudden, now it does. And what I told our community group is, for the very first time in my life, I felt old. And I'm sure there've been, moments before then, but that's just kind of a funny recent story for me. It was literally out doing something I love, working out in the yard, and thought, I feel old. I don't know about you.
Yeah, there have been many different times, honestly, Mark. One thing that does come to mind was for, the last 20 plus years, I've been in the education world. And for the last few years, I was doing both. And our children, of course, getting older, and our oldest having a baby and having the blessing of being able to see and keep them, I realized I was tired. And I wasn't being a good wife, a good mom, a good Minnie, a good classroom teacher or friend. And we realized that for us to finish well and to age well, that we needed to make sure that we were prioritizing what was our season of life that God had called us to. And that kind of led to me retiring and leaving the classroom because I didn't feel that I was really doing much well.
I think, Mark, she was doing a lot of things well. She's higher capacity than me. Full-time school teacher, trying to help me launch a ministry and all of the other duties. She was doing outstanding, but I'm grateful to have her now full-time on board with Marriage in Focus. And we really are believing, as Karla said, that the next couple of decades of our life can actually be the most impactful, that God has positioned us, and we just feel so blessed and favored. It's interesting, when we were in our 30s, we talked about retirement all the time. What are we going to do when we retire? You're in that age with kids where it's physically exhausting, and you feel like a taxi driver, and you're just going relentlessly from one activity to the next. And we frequently talked about, hey, what are we going to do when we retire? What are we going to do when life slows down? And the interesting thing is, where we find ourselves now is more praying and saying, hey, God, will you redeem the years where we were not passionate, where we were not partnering with you, and we were not on mission? God, would you redeem those years and help us make the most of the last couple of decades or 3 decades of our lives? So now, we're not even thinking about retirement. We're filled with passion and vigor and zeal for the Lord, and just eager to partner with Him and just make a difference in this world.
Yeah, that's so exciting. That's what it's all about. I mean, I think that perspective change happens a lot, especially for kingdom-minded people. You go from thinking, what would that look like, to how long can I keep from stop? Like, I want to go till I can't go any further, and that's what's so exciting about this, and what was so instrumental in inspiring me to start this podcast was, I feel like people like us are having these conversations, but not really out in public much. You have them together as a couple, or you have them with your couple friends or other people in a stage of life. But the comment that we get more than anything else from people is, I'm so glad somebody's talking about this, because I want to know that I'm not alone in it. I want to keep going. I want to make sure, they want to feel like they're part of a community that's actively pursuing a life of purpose, regardless of age. And we say a lot that age, or that purpose and calling, don't have any expiration dates. Those are lifelong things that God calls us to do.
I love that.
Well, and I think what Chris said a minute ago is so poignant, is that while we want to keep a young mindset and we want to stay relevant, and that's all important, I think that's a big part of staying youthful, in your head, and that probably plays out in your physicality too. But there is a positive step I think we need to take into this stage of life, where it's an honor to be in this stage. We're blessed to be healthy. We're blessed to be active, still have our wits about us. We're not that old. Y'all are probably younger than I am, but it's, like you said, we've got a lot of years in front of us, God willing. I feel like I'm just getting started. Honestly, I feel that way all the time. And so it's a blessing to play the role of the older mentor, coach, sage, whatever word you want to put on it, because the younger people, they're hungry for somebody to pour into their life. And so many people didn't have great families or families of origin, so sometimes they're missing that father or mother figure. And I mean, it really is a privilege to get to sit in that role. Let me ask you guys a question. So speaking of another 20, 30 years of active ministry and trying to do it as long as you possibly can and all that, what are some things you're doing to to invest in that and ensure, again, God willing, unless something out of our control happens, that we will still be healthy, we will still be active. What are you guys doing around taking care of yourselves and sleep and eating and quiet time and working out? And I'd love to hear kind of what your life is like when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I will say that for a long time, we've not always been the healthiest of eaters. But thankfully, Chris has totally gotten us more in line with better eating. And since I've left the classroom and been able to be around a little bit more, Chris has actually been gardening and growing some of our food fresh from the backyard, which has been amazingly fun and an amazing time for us to come together. And we've talked so many times about the biblical implication of harvest and being fruitful and multiplying. And that's what we want for our marriage and our lives is just that. And we've even been taking some vitamins. So we've been doing really well with that. But I would say by far and away, the biggest thing is our pursuit of the Lord is different, but amazingly healthy and growing. We are able to have our quiet time and drink our coffee together, which we were not able to do when I was full-time in the classroom. And our small group has been very instrumental in all of us wanting to grow more in likeness and disciples of Jesus, knowing that God always has more for us. And so by his grace and love and mercy, we just say, Lord, show us your way. We want to do this well, and we want to be your disciples all of our days.
Yeah, I think, Mark, just from what I have observed through pastoring and ministry and really just life in general, is some people have a tendency to just slow down and become complacent, and it impacts them physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Socially.
Yeah, socially, just the value of community. And so I think just to hit on all of those areas that you mentioned, I mean, Karla's already touched. I mean, the foundation, the thing that anchors us is our relationship with Jesus and just the intimacy that we experience, and not relying on yesterday's manna, so to speak, but daily seeking the Lord. I love that line in the Lord's Prayer: give us today what we need for today. And to me, it just paints this picture of coming back over and over and over again to Jesus, finding our wholeness, our fulfillment in him, being satisfied in him. But then, of course, it expands beyond that. And, one of the holes that Karla and I identified in our lives, and you discussed it earlier, we spent so much time investing into younger marriages and younger couples that we found that we had somewhat isolated ourselves from people our own age. And so at the end of 2024, we invited a group of couples, or several couples, some slightly younger than us, some about our age, and one couple that's a little older than us, to just go on a journey of discipleship together. And that has been incredibly enlarging, really just strengthening our faith, and such a blessing. And then I've been one who I have valued physical exercise and activity for years and years. I really love doing it. It's interesting. I had an injury last year. The rehabilitation has not gone exactly like I thought it would go. And I have not been able to get back to the level that I was before. But even what God is teaching me through that has been very powerful. And since Karla retired, one of the things that is we've been able to start working out more together. We joined a gym together, just again, a great community of people there. So we're not doing it alone. We're doing it with others. And So I think those are just some of the things that we're doing to make sure that we don't get stagnant or complacent. One thing I know is a truth is no one drifts to greatness in anything. You don't drift to a great marriage. You don't drift to great health. You don't drift to, emotional health. All of those things take discipline and time and energy and focus. And so making sure that we're devoting ourselves to physical, emotional, and spiritual health. We want to continue to grow. I look biblically at Abraham and Caleb and Moses and just multiple stories that we could go on and on again about people who the second half of their life was more impactful than the first half of their life. But I think a consistent theme there is just on waiting on God, trusting in God. It was rarely easy. If you read those stories, rarely was it easy. It required significant leaps of faith, long suffering, endurance, patience as God moved. It's funny, even in ministry, I have found myself kind of asking God from time to time, why did you not give me this vision for Marriage in Focus when I was in my 30s? And of course, I was nowhere close to being ready. Still feel ill-equipped in many ways. Still feel that I'm not ready. But where I am in this season in life, that doesn't so much intimidate me as it forces me to press into God with even more and more desperation. God, I need you to do what you have called me to do. And Jesus himself, it's almost like he was imploring us to abide in me, come to me. That was the invitation. Experience me, learn from me. And as you do that, there's a promise on the other side of that. You will bear much fruit, but apart from me, you can do nothing. And so I think just what we are learning as much as anything in this season, even with the value of life experiences, is just our dependence on God is deepening to even greater levels. Like one thing that we both know is we have not arrived. We're still working on our own marriage and trying to experience the fullness of all that God desires. And certainly in our spiritual lives, our physical lives, all of those things, that's just as applicable.
Yeah. I love what you said about the drifting. Something we say around here a lot is that the only place coasting takes you is downhill. Because it doesn't work the other way. You can't coast uphill. And all the good stuff is uphill, unfortunately. Sometimes it feels that way. But it does take work. It does take focus. It does take discipline. And it's really exciting to hear you guys talk about this because you're really the living embodiment of what we're talking about here every week. And that is, you're in the second stage of life. You have left other careers. Maybe you've got a little set aside. You've got more time on your hands. Your kids are grown now. All that stuff. You have all this. You've got time. You've got some resources. You've got network. You've got experiences. Your faith is stronger than it's ever been. And now you're taking that and you're using it to do something powerful for the kingdom. You're not going, well, that was great. Now we're just going to take it easy. It's like, no. We've got more opportunity now than we've ever had and more resources than we've ever had. Now's the time to press in. Now's the time to step forward. Now's the time to raise our hand and go, hey, where can we go, God? What do you want us to do? So I love that you're talking about it that way because that's exactly what we're all about here. Well, you've talked about the ministry a lot, and I wanted to ask you, now that you've been doing it for these 3 years, not to mention the decades before where you were leading kind of on a more informal basis, when you deal with couples in crisis or people who come to you who may be a little older, let's just say, upper 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, what are some common issues or themes that you're seeing? Like I've heard this before. We've seen this before. This is a typical thing when people get to this age and they've been married for 20 or 30 or 40 years. And like, what are some of the things you're seeing and how are you addressing that with your people?
That's a great question, and I think there are multiple layers to that, Mark. I think just generally speaking, and statistically, you could prove this to be true, that there are some common themes that almost all couples struggle with, at least on some level: communication, finances, sex. All of these things are issues that we deal with as we're talking to people. But I think one of the things that we've found, couples that are in our season of life, let's say that have been married 20 plus years or so, I think there's an alarming number of marriages that are really struggling and in crisis. And unfortunately, even devastatingly, even some of those ending in divorce. And I think, again, I want to be clear preface to say, I think, just on numerous conversations that we've had and just stories that we've heard, is that people did not invest in their marriages. They invested in their careers. Almost in every case, they invested in their children. We've all seen kind of the byproduct of child-centered homes. And, so all of a sudden, 20 years down the road, couples are looking at one another saying, who are you?
I don't
because
even know you or like you.
Yeah. Sometimes I say to Karla, I know you love me, but do you like me today?
Yes, I like you.
And so, but I think that's really a common trend that we've seen, is that, all of us, I think, would say, if for any married couple, you would say, do you value your marriage? Do you want to have a great marriage? Do you want to have the marriage that God designed for you to have and desires for you to have? Almost universally, the answer is going to be yes. That's not the question. The question is, are you willing to put in the work in order to experience the fullness of all God desires for you? I think one of the biggest misconceptions, as a matter of fact, we think it's one of the biggest marriage myths, that if marriage is hard, something must be wrong. If marriage is hard, I clearly married the wrong person. And no, you alluded to it earlier. Coasting gets you only going downhill. I don't remember who said it, but someone once said that everything worth having is uphill. And you know what? Uphill is hard. And uphill takes perseverance, and uphill takes time and effort. And so, in other words, we're willing to work on our bodies, or we're willing to try to shore up our nutrition. All of these things, it requires discipline and investment. But I think far too often what we've seen, or maybe not often, that's overstating it, but some of those couples that are more advanced, that are struggling, it's been they just haven't given their marriage the attention and the investment. But the flip side of that, Mark, I also want to share something incredibly encouraging. One of the best parts of the ministry, one of the things that's been so fulfilling, we do have a passion for young married couples. We love trying to help equip them in their premarital season, early on in their marriage. All of our small groups for years and years were young marrieds. And many of our early retreats were marriages, say, 5 to 7 years or less, just a very high percentage. But over the last couple of years, we have seen numerous couples attend a retreat that have been married 25 years, 30 years. Within the last year, we've had 2 couples that have been married 33 years. And I love their passion. And the general theme that all of them have is, I'm not sure exactly what God has for us in this season of life, but here's what we do know: He's not finished with us.
Yeah.
He has more for us.
Yep.
There's more that He's calling us to do. We're hungry to grow. Like, we don't want to get stagnant. And so just as much as, yes, we do, unfortunately, experience those couples who have drifted and now they find themselves not in a great place, we're also encountering many couples that are saying, hey, we're just getting started. We are hungry for the more that God has for us. I don't know if you want to share anything on that.
Yeah. And I was even thinking that we've had some couples that have not been in a good place, and the Lord has literally performed a miracle and saved their marriage, and they've almost, humbled themselves to what they were lacking and knew they had, drifted from and not pursued wholeheartedly, and truly returned. And maybe some of them for the first time turned to the Lord and allowed his way to guide them and to be able to show the Christ in them, the grace, the kindness, the love, the mercy, everything that we all need to make, life a better place, but specifically our marriages as we are becoming one, as we would say, through this endeavor that we call life.
Yeah. It's that's such an interesting thing that you're talking about. We talk about that a lot here at home. We have a wonderful marriage, super blessed. It's great, but we're always talking about that. Like, it's not that we're trying to fix anything. It's just, we just want more of the good stuff. It's like, how can we grow in an area? How can we improve in an area? It's just never settling and going, this is good enough. I think that's the gravitational pull that a lot of couples fight is, well, we're good. We're fine. It's the typical Sunday morning answer. How are you doing? We're fine. And for us, I don't know if this is average or typical or not, but for us, we talk about that a lot. We don't want to ever settle for anything. We're thankful. We have gratitude. We're content. But we're also hungry for the more. And that's something we talk about a lot. I know there's specific things for each couple and each individual that God has, but when people in our season of life are asking those questions, what do you typically think the more is that they're missing, or that you often see as this is sort of a good next step for people to take when they're hungry for that?
I thought immediately the more is God's way. I mean, the world would say more riches, more whatever, but God is sufficient. And that doesn't look like the world's way. And I think it's utilizing our gifts and our calling in the pursuit of that is glorifying to the Lord. So that, we are operating in his nature as we share his through the Spirit to the world around us. Yeah. What about you, honey?
Yeah. Well, just to kind of pick up on that theme, marriage in focus. So focus is an acronym for 5 foundational pillars for a biblical and godly marriage. And the O in focus is oneness. And we devote an entire session to really unpacking this biblical, theological concept of oneness. And one of the things that we talk about being the best way that a couple can achieve oneness is through a kingdom advancing common mission. And so what's great about your question, but what's also so unique and difficult, so God has given us this overarching mission. I mean, it literally goes back to page 1 of the Bible. We are to be fruitful and multiply. And of course, that has literal implications, but the implications go far beyond just populating the earth with godly offspring. It's about taking everything that God puts inside of us, our spiritual gifts, our passions, our opportunities, even the places that we live, the circle of influence that we have, our gifts, our talents, all of those things. How can we then take them and leverage them for the glory of God? And we say when your marriage is preaching an authentic Jesus, you are an evangelist. Did you know your marriage can be an evangelistic tool? Yes, it can. Because when it preaches an authentic Jesus, you're advancing the kingdom of God because you're not going to look like the rest of the world. And the world's going to look at you and say, hey, what's different? You have all of the same struggles. Your life has all of the same busyness. What's different? And of course, we get to point them to Jesus. But the key to oneness is that common mission. And here's what we love about marriage. We say marriage is not 1 + 1 = 2. Marriage is more like 1 + 1 = 10. There's an exponential effect of that fruitful and multiply. It really does take on an added role. And that's not in any way, shape, or form to diminish singleness. Singleness in and of itself is an incredible gift. Paul talked a lot about that. Jesus, of course, was single. But there's something powerful that happens within the gift and covenant of marriage, which is God's creation, where we're able to combine the different things, the unique things that God has given us. We say another one of the lies of marriage is and of course, Hollywood has certainly romanticized the narrative of, oh, you complete me. And nothing could be further from the truth. Christ alone completes us. But the beautiful thing in marriage, I mean, the Bible talks about it, that God looked at Adam and said, you need a suitable helper. And so marriage, by God's design, we perfectly complement one another. So our gifts come together and we get on this common mission together, and we're advancing the kingdom of God together. And I think very few does that look like vocational ministry. And I think that's one of the traps. Oh, that's for the pastors. That's for the ministry leaders. I'm just going to go to work. I'm just going to, I'm going to go to church, 3.2 times per month. And, I'm going to occasionally get in a small group, or I'll occasionally serve. No, God has invited all of us to be his representatives. We are to bear his image, priestly representatives. And he's going to use each of our unique callings in the business world, in the marketplace, in the education sector, in the entertainment industry, all of those places. God wants to use us in the unique giftings that we have right where we are in order to make a difference. But again, to bring it back to marriage, there's something powerful that happens when the two become one and we get to be on mission together.
Yeah, 100%. That's so powerful. And that's what I was talking about when I said that, you could see that in you guys. You could see these guys are on the same page. They have a common mission. And that doesn't always mean that you're literally doing the same thing together. Not everybody gets the opportunity or is called to that. But you just see alignment, even if they have two very different jobs or two very different, things that they do. You just see alignment in the way they are consistently individually and the way they are together. It's all the same. It all blends together. And when it does come together, you do see that multiplier of the Holy Spirit in there. That there's just something extra powerful about that. And we get to be around a lot of the college kids at Highlands College because Jenda works there, and we lead a group. And it's so many kids today, unfortunately, good, bad, or otherwise, even in the church, I said good, bad, or otherwise, it's really just bad, but they're coming from really hard backgrounds, and they're looking for parents or looking for an older couple to put, like, you can feel how they're just drawn to it. Like we'll get comments a lot when they come over for small group about how they just like to be in our house, and they talk about it like it's the house. I mean, they're saying like, we love the feel but we know it's the Spirit of God that's here. That's the anointing on the union that we have. And it filters into all the other things. They feel peace, they feel calm, they feel stability, they feel safe. And I think that's sort of that power that comes, whether it's to other couples or to younger people or to neighbors or whatever it is, but they do sense there's something different about this family. There's something different about this couple, even if they can't quite put the words on it, or they don't really understand, or they're not even ready to ask a question about it, but you can just see how they look at you. Sometimes they get that kind of like, something's a little bit different over here, almost like they're suspicious, but there is that power. And I know, we're a blended family. We married later in life and had some hard stories that led up to that, but we knew when we got serious with each other just in dating, like, we knew like there's something on this. God is doing something here, and you kind of feel that, and then it really becomes our opportunity for stewardship to manage that, steward it, grow it, be faithful with it, and none of us ever get it perfect, but just that continuation of that continuity of trying, growing, asking what's more, and that's really where the power is, for sure. That's so good. Let me ask you this: as you have in this season of life, one thing I've noticed is a lot of times people will talk about how their faith has changed or grown over those years. And there's some basic stuff we all could say, well, I'm closer to God and I've grown in this. That's fine. I'm not looking for that. What I'm asking is have you learned anything new that you didn't understand before, or have you had a different perspective on a topic or an issue, or just seeing how God works in people's lives? I'm asking kind of a broader, it's a big question, but how's your faith changed or grown as you guys have gotten older?
That is so good. And it's only by the grace of good Lord that as we've drawn closer to Him, we have realized that our selfish ways didn't work. And we serve a generous, humble, loving Father.
Redemptive.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it has been amazing to watch as we have been on pursuit of the Lord individually and collectively together, that our ways don't work. That it's only the grace of the good Lord that as we followed and, read and studied more and more about His way, that it makes us better, because that's growing in the likeness of Christ. Really. I mean,
I think, Mark, as I sit here today, and I am a little younger than you, 53, but not much. Biblically and theologically, I am further along than I've ever been, and yet somehow I think my faith is getting simpler and simpler. And so maybe that almost sounds paradoxical to this, growth thing, but I think it is a paradigm of that, the more I know, somehow the simpler it becomes. And I think one of the most immediate things that I could point to is just our community group, our small group that we've been going on this journey with throughout all of 2025. And it's interesting, we didn't invite anyone. We sent 4 couples just this one question. We said, have you considered what your life, your marriage, your parenting, your family, your business would look like if you became a more fully devoted disciple of Jesus? And if the answer to that is yes, well, then we invite you to go on this journey with us. I keep going back to Jesus Himself, His words, if you want to be my disciple. And I think especially those of us who have grown up in the South, Karla and I both grew up going to church, you can immediately start to conceptualize and fill in the blank of what that may look like. But it's interesting what he says. He says, deny yourself. And Karla talked about that in her response. So this life is not ultimately about me and my desires and the things that I want to do and the goals that I want to accomplish. And by the way, none of those things are wrong. I think we should all have healthy levels of ambition, personal growth, goals, all of those type things. They just can't be our focus. They can't be our priority. And he says, take up your cross. So that is painting this picture of a sacrificial life, where we're laying down our life for the benefit of others. And then the final thing he says, and then follow me. In other words, look like I look, live like I lived. In other words, model your life after me. And as followers of Jesus, we have the incredible benefit of having 4 biographies written out for us that detail what Jesus's life looked like and what he prioritized and what he valued. And so as we've gone on this journey this year, ultimately, all of that is about becoming a person of love. Like, would those who know me best say that I am becoming more and more of a person of love who doesn't exist primarily for themselves, but for the benefit of the others. And I think it's one of the key, principles in marriage that we even teach in premarital is dying to ourselves every single day. That when we enter into that covenant, our interests are no longer our primary interests. Philippians 2 paints this beautiful picture of do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, rather in humility, value others above yourselves. And I think, and by the way, let me say, it's so much easier to say than to do.
Sure.
We are still working on the application side of this, but just trying to become more and more selfless. Jesus must increase and we must decrease. And I think that's the way that we're really trying to grow right now. And, it would be nice if there was just this straight line, linear progression from where I was or where I am to where I want to be. But, often life looks a little bit more like a roller coaster where there are ups and downs and there are good days and they're not so good days. And the key is just persevering through all of that and just being committed to just allowing God to continually transform our lives more and more into his image.
Yeah, it's definitely a circuitous route. There's no question about that. It's just, you just hope that more often than not, it's going in a certain direction, even though it's spinning around. And I love what you said, Chris, about the simplification of your faith, because I know when I was younger, and I'm not saying I've got this figured out, I still fight it, but I really wanted to try to help God out. I really wanted to give him a hand and, I got this part, you take a break. And, scripture is always talking Jesus says many times in scripture about becoming more childlike. And I think as we get older and we realize how little we can control, how little we can really affect certain things. And you also, it's like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, I think is a common experience as well. And so the dependency increasing on him, the hey, I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm giving it my all. I've got to have you show up every day. I think that's just saying it back to you. I think that's sort of what I'm hearing you say. Is that's actually the fruit is it actually gets simpler, leaner. All the fluff kind of goes away. It really just kind of comes down to me and Jesus. Like what's going on here. And so I think that is a beautiful part of growing older if we continue to pursue him. And, my prayer is as people watch these interviews and hear people like you talk, that one of their takeaways will be not only are they not done in their calling and their purpose, but like, don't stop in your growth in your faith either. Like that is the key part. You guys said at the beginning, it's our quiet time every day. It's the renewal. It's the daily manna. It's the, not living on yesterday's manna was what you said. I wrote that down. That was big for me. I haven't heard anybody say that before. I know I'm guilty of that so many times. And so just that hunger and that pursuit for Jesus is really ultimately, as simple as it sounds and as cliche as it may sound to some people, it really is the key that unlocks all the other things, no doubt.
Yeah, it is. It's not the pastoral answer. It really is our heart. As a matter of fact, you talked about stewardship, and in your marriage, you guys feel just that you're blessed to be able to steward well what God has entrusted to you. And I think one of the healthiest things that we do, well, let me first say one of the unhealthiest things that we do in this ministry is self-reliance and trying to just use muster grit and determination and, hey, we can do this. And as you can imagine, that just gets us in the pig pen. We get discouraged and we begin to question. And, it's, I guess it could be easy to look in from the outside and go, wow, that just looks like it's so easy and everything just fell into place and nothing could be further from the truth. Like this has been the most rewarding journey ever, but it's been an incredibly difficult, and that's pressed us toward God. And so one of the healthiest things that we do is we remind ourselves that Marriage in Focus does not belong to Chris and Karla Hines, that this is a vision from God, that it is his, that he will fulfill his vision that he gave us to invest in marriages, have them living according to his design, and that for whatever reason, that he has chosen to partner with us. But kind of our foundational scripture is 1 Thessalonians 5:24, the one who calls you is faithful, and he will do it. He will do it. And so God is so faithful. And And so our role, and of course, there's lots of things that we both have to do and get to do, but just remembering this is not ours, that it is God's, and He has entrusted partnership to us. And that's just a beautiful, not just responsibility and opportunity, but we remind ourselves it's not ours. God, it's yours.
Steward it well.
And as a matter of fact, sometimes my prayer is, hey, God, remember, this is not mine. This is yours.
You don't show up.
Yeah.
We're toast.
And just, you said it yourself. And that's kind of a daily prayer. God, we need you to show up every single day. We need your vision. We need your provision. Like, we need you just to minister to us, like continue to work out the kinks in our lives, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Scripture says this journey of sanctification. And so just a reminder that we're simply stewards, and God has entrusted something beautiful to us, and we don't take that lightly. And yet what we do in response to that is turn it back over to Him. And hey, God, we need you to supply. And Scripture promises that He will supply our needs in order to achieve His purpose ultimately.
Yeah, that's so good, and that really is a great note to end on. That really does sum up everything we've talked about today. So I'm so thankful for you guys. I appreciate you so much taking time to be with us and to share your wisdom and your experiences and your encouragement. And tell everybody how they can find you, how they can see your ministry. We'll put this in the show notes as well, but I'd love for you just to tell them, how can they find you on socials? What's your website? Give them those resources.
Yeah. And Mark, we can't thank you enough for having us today. It's been a lot of fun getting to share all that God is doing. But if people out there would like to know more about Marriage in Focus, we can be found on our website at www.marriageinfocus.org. And we are also on Instagram, which is our handle, Marriage in Focus, and Facebook as well. So
yeah,
great.
We sure do love getting to talk with you today.
You too. It's really been fun, and I've learned a ton. And I think we'll do it again. I can't wait to check in with you guys in the coming months and years and see all how you continue to learn and how you're growing. And I hope I cross your path soon. I haven't been to Auburn lately, but always look forward to seeing you guys when I get a chance. I hope we get to see each other again soon.
Yeah, same here. Hope to see you soon, Mark, and so grateful for the work that you're doing, the kingdom work you're doing, and thank you for creating a space, not just a space, but a community where people our age can be encouraged. Knowing that there are others out there that are fighting this good fight, and you're leading the charge here. So thank you so much.
Hey, that was amazing. I have known Chris and Karla for a long time, and they are the real thing. They are honest, they are sincere, they are genuinely pastoral, and they care so much about the heart of couples. If you want to get to know them, if you want to learn more about their ministry, go to marriageinfocus.org, and you can check out all that they're doing, upcoming retreats that they have planned, how to get in touch with them, how to seek counseling with them. They are incredible, and if your marriage is in need of that kind of input, they would be great for you. Hey, we have some amazing episodes coming up, including Wendy Garner, one of Birmingham's most well-known and beloved news anchors, who is now the executive director of On River Time, which is a not-for-profit group that works with abused and neglected kids, getting them out into nature and seeing great things happen in their life as they are loved and cared for. And also after that, Pastor Mark Price is coming up. He's a great friend of mine. He's going to be talking about empty nesting. Their daughter's gone to college for the first time, and he's also changed his career this last year. It's been an incredible step for him, a real step of faith. And then we're going to learn from him about how that goes and what he's learning in that process. And hey, again, make sure on whatever platform you're enjoying this to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to join the conversation, because we're all on the journey together, and we want to know what you think, what you're learning, what direction you'd like to see us go, things you'd like to ask about. And also check out our homepage at ageoflions.com. Where you can join our community, get on our mailing list, get early access to things, and learn about what we're doing. We'd love to have you there. I hope this episode has encouraged you and given you some great tools to help you age with purpose and intentionality. We will see you next week.